Welcome to Talladega Superspeedway. For the third and final time, it plays host to race number 8 of the first season of the TNR Superspeedway Series. The penultimate race before we eventually crown a champion at Daytona next week. As mentioned, we've had 2 previous races here at Daytona, so these drivers have a pretty good idea of what to expect, but then again, it is a super speedway, so always expect the unexpected. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Lucas Cram. Lucas coming in tonight, Austin Grover with a great run last week at iRacing Super Speedway, 61 points over David Durand. Really, those are the 2 that are going to be settling up for this championship, but Durand needs a little bit of help here tonight with only 11 drivers taking the green.
Yeah, Austin Grover surprisingly has not reached victory lane so far during the course of this season in his past 7 races, and we mentioned this point system over and over and over again every single week. Winning is pretty much everything with this point system. You get a ton of points if you can go to victory lane. So you're obviously going to see David Durand and these guys really fight for the win, not only just to claim a victory at Talladega, obviously, but also to try to close that gap on Grover, who's just doing a really good job consistently.
There are only 5 drivers of the 11 took time here in qualifying. David Durand will be starting outside of row 3 and 6. Vincent Valvano, Mike Tellier in row 4. Garrett Gleason, Matthew Rodriguez in row 5. And Austin Grover will be starting shotgun in the field. Again, kind of as we've explained during the course of the season, a lot of drivers not wanting to take time, wanting to start towards the rear of the field because you get those 10 valuable bonus points for picking up the most spots from your starting position to your finishing position. Grover was actually able to do that last week, and he's got a shot to be able to do it again here tonight, being the car that's starting back in the final position on the starting grid.
Base sharks off here, and obviously long wait to get back to the start-finish line here and the initial green flag of the start. And last time we were here at Talladega, we saw a lot of guys go really early on restarts, and obviously you can kind of get yourself coordinated with your teammates around you and try to get a group together, but long wait all the way through the trial over here at 65 miles an hour as the pace truck speed, and they're coming green flag here for race number 8.
Alonso Chicano's going to have John Cannizzaro as his wingman. Kyle Lewis with Jason Gracias, though they're kind of staggered there with Lewis in the middle and Gracias up towards the wall. Green flag flies. 57 laps here tonight. Now, only one of our previous Talladega winners is in the field here this evening, that being the 38 of Vincent Valvano. The defending Talladega winner, Robert Kenny, not in the field here tonight.
See Kyle Lewis up there, already 3 wide for the 3rd position, currently getting it shuffled back. Looks like they're doing that intentionally, obviously. Trying to get to the back of this pack and just stay out of harm's way and be there at the end.
Cannizzaro going to step out of line. Dosiak Jr. at 55. Wondered if he was going to jump up there with him. Nope, instead it's going to be David Durand, the 24. That's going to move up there, but he has too much of a run to try and line up the bumpers. He's going to take it 3 wide on the top. That's going to be for 2nd place. Chicano going to hold off all 3 lanes for the moment through 3 and 4.
Our points leader definitely ain't holding anything back, that's for sure. Goes all the way up top against the outside wall here on lap 1. Trying to get to the race lead, and fortunately for him, he didn't have any help there, as he mentioned, all by himself up there with that run, and now he's going to fall back just inside the top 5. But lap 1 now in the books, and Alonso Chicano going to lead him off at their number 1.
And into last week's race at iRacing Super Speedway, we were 6 for 6 and different drivers going to victory lane. Matthew Rodriguez snapping that streak, becoming the first multi-time winner on the season, taking the checkered flag. He's at the tail end of this field and trying to see if maybe he can be a 3-time winner on the season. Alonso Chicano's been a driver that's had a lot of speed this year. As a matter of fact, I believe he's led the most laps so far this season, but that 95 is still looking for his first trip to victory lane. We'll see, with no championship really on the line for him, if he'll be able to park that machine in victory lane by the time we get to the end of this race. Dosiak Jr., who had a solid outing at the end of last week's race at iRacing Super Speedway, he's right behind him, but look at that top side. Cannizzaro, Lewis, Durand working to the front.
Yeah, just 3 cars up there on the outside lane, already getting that line moving. And John Zagar got a turn right there by Kyle Lewis. Big shove right there coming up out of the tri-oval. It's probably the easiest place to have that contact happen and cause a chain reaction wreck. But luckily for them, they eventually got it back up. And obviously now look at the momentum back to the inside lane. It's a fight off turn number 2.
Know that these cars, that they can lock up, create a lot of speed, but at the same time, got to be careful not to get close to that left or right rear quarter panel. We've seen even drivers get hooked up into the outside wall if the bumpers aren't lined up evenly, so they've got to be careful, especially here in the corners. Make sure that with the movement of the race cars that the bumpers still stay square. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty detrimental for these guys. I think we got to point out here as well, we're going to have to see what happens in this race compared to last week. Last week they had all the space available to them, about 6-7 grooves at iRacing Superspeedway, and we weren't even 20 laps into the race, and nearly 2/3 of the field had already used their faster pair. They're 3 wide, several rows deep here. We might have the same kind of scenario here at Talladega, only 4 laps in.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that Talladega could feel narrowed to anybody who shows up in races here. But obviously, David Duran, I mentioned earlier, I've actually called him the points leader. He's trying to close in on the points leader, and he's got good help here from Matthew Rodriguez. Last week's winner from iRacing Superspeedway. They're both clear. Only a matter of time. Here goes Rodriguez now down the inside for the race lead.
He's going to duck to the bottom, pick up Stephen Dosiak Jr. and Vincent Valvano. Duran waiting for the one of Jason Gracias, our winner in the season opener, to pick him up. David Duran, a former winner in his own right at the first iRacing Superspeedway event. Wow! Those cars get a little loose there, about second, third, fourth, and the inside line. Dosiak Jr., Valvano, and Kyle Lewis. A little bit of dancing there off of turn 4. Apparently these drivers all of a sudden starting to feel a little something there on the inside line. I wonder if it's maybe the car kind of tightening up with drivers to their outside.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely kind of getting their bearings underneath them, too. Only lap 5 here of 57-lap run. It's pretty easy to just kind of, get adjusted into a run. And that Matthew Rodriguez actually pulls that onto the apron. He didn't feel very comfortable there. Obviously, he's going to drop all the way to the back of this pack and try to get behind the field here.
His lap-led bonus point. Now he will drop back to a safe spot. Duran going to jump down to the inside, leaving Gracias, who kept him up there towards the front. Gracias, no friends in that second groove. Cannizaro's going to go to second. Dosiak Jr. will look for third. Valvano, Lewis, Tellier, Rodriguez all lined up in the inside line. You got to go about 4 car lengths back to the next car on the top side. That's where Alonso Chicano's trying to help points leader Austin Grover.
Yeah, how things can change very quickly here at Talladega. We went from 3x3 racing on lap 1 and 2 all the way back to single file, but now here comes another 58 machine looking for the outside, but again, outside lane just not quite there yet as now it looks like he's going to get some help here from points leader Austin Grover trying to, he's going to stay in line behind him there and try to get that second lane formed up.
It's so tough here with these cars, with what we've seen, the way that the runs are able to generate, and the difference of speed of the car that's got the run moving forward and the car that he's trying to push. Sometimes you kind of have to bail out and just go around the car that you want to work with. Otherwise, the both of you are going to end up wrecked depending on where you encounter.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Cup packers with these spoilers, and obviously on iRacing, the Cup cars have gotten the new drafting model, so it's definitely a lot different kind of system now in those races. But these cars have a ton of downforce to that huge spoiler on the back, and they really get a huge run as you've been seeing so far and just mentioned. And now it looks like battle for the race lead. David Duran has some pressure from the number 55 machine of Stephen Dosiak Jr., and he's actually going to get some help there. Big slide right there, almost in contact.
Yeah, that was Cannizzaro, who I think had a bump from behind by Austin Grover, and a nice save as he was all out of shape in the center of 1 and 2. They're going to get Forn back up here, try and help push Stephen Dosiak Jr. in that outside line. And look at the speed difference. That's about 2-3 miles per hour faster on that top side. 3 cars against, 4-5 on the bottom.
Yeah, something in Talladega. Going fast is always super uncomfortable. You got to make really aggressive moves like that to try to get a good push to the car in front of you. And I mentioned it last time we were here at Talladega as well. These cars are very notorious for bumper hooking for whatever reason, just the way the bumpers line up. Even if you're squared up on somebody, if you're carrying too much momentum, especially the runs, you get out. Austin Grover, as mentioned.
John Cannizzaro gets clipped in it. Jason Gracias is around. Mike Tellier's going to get a piece. 4 or 5 drivers collected up here in a wreck heading towards turn 1 on lap number 8.
Man, just really unfortunate right there. Chicano got into the right rear quarter panel, just barely offset, and coming up out of the tri-oval, the track kind of narrows up there, and everybody kind of moves into different positions to set themselves up for turn 1. It's easiest place on the racetrack to do something like that, and unfortunately for John Cannizzaro, just right there, also nowhere to go for him, and a lot of these guys are pretty tore up race cars here, only lap 8.
To come back here off of turn 4. Watch the 83 of Austin Grover, kind of out of shape there. He's going to dive down to the inside line. Kano wants to tuck in behind him, and there. As I mentioned earlier, that right rear quarter panel just unfortunately wasn't clear. Kyle Lewis actually got a piece of it as well on the passenger side door of his 18. Mike Tellier, you see there, get that final hit. So there's about 5 drivers there that got bits and pieces. Now it's kind of the guessing game for these guys of just how damaged am I? Is it worth taking a faster pair this early on, or not even 10 laps in, do I just ride it out with this damage, hope for a couple more yellows, hope for a couple of other drivers to maybe get some damage, save that faster pair for later on in this race? Because a couple of those hits, especially towards the front end, looked like they were pretty hard for some of these guys.
Yeah, I would say honestly, most of those guys, Austin Grover, it looks like the number one machine of Jason Gracias, definitely seemed like they would be okay. And John Caranazaro, obviously up in the outside lane, running about the third position there, was the first car to get turned around by Austin Grover after he spun up across the racetrack. And unfortunately for him, he didn't really hit anything at all besides that. He was probably looking to be in pretty good shape, but Mike Taylor just nowhere to go, trying to avoid that accident. His car scattered all over the place down the racetrack, and they both made contact head on, like nose to nose with each other. So they both probably have pretty severe engine damage, and I'd say those two cars are probably the worst position, obviously, out of this entire incident.
Oh, it's interesting. I talked with a bunch of the guys last week in the post-race interviews, and I said to them, you're not in the championship contention. Did a lot of the aggressive racing we saw early on in last week's race a tribute to the fact that everybody's just out there having fun and trophy hunting at this point in time, and a lot of them answered yes. I'm almost wondering if that might be something we would look at next week, because 61 points, the gap coming into this one, Austin Grover over David Durant. All Grover's got to do here tonight, especially since he started at the tail end of the field, he's just got to finish ahead of David Durant, and I think that mathematically there's no way David Durant is going to be able to get the championship away from him next week. So with that being said, we could have every single driver that takes the green next week basically just out there to try to finish out the season with a W, the championship already decided. And we've already seen in the past how Daytona has brought about some pretty interesting finishes. We've been there 3 times this season already, 2 at the current Daytona and 1 at the 2008 version.
Yeah, for sure. That'd obviously be a huge weight off the shoulders there for Austin Grover. And unfortunate luck for him here. Obviously, like we mentioned, trying to climb the championship up before we get to next week, so that pressure's kind of off of him. And going to have to come back a little bit from this incident. Obviously, the track position isn't a big deal at Talladega, but just trying to make sure he can manage that damage for the rest of the race. It looks like he, in fact, did not take his faster pair, and I'm looking through it. It doesn't look like anybody involved in that incident actually did. So obviously these guys feel like they can keep going and hopefully stay within the pack and just try to make the rest of the way. 57 laps is a long way to go, obviously, and a long race, I should say, 47 to go. And they come back around the start-finish line, so definitely want to use the faster pair too early.
So a lot of damage around the left rear quarter panel of Jason Gracias. He spent the longest amount of time on pit road, but nobody involved in that incident on lap number 8. On a faster pair, they're all going to ride it out with the damage they have sustained. Garrett Gleason, right now the race leader, but you see the lights are still out atop the pace truck, so probably classic Garrett Gleason staying out, leading the lap, and we'll probably see him dive to pit road this time by. May also end up seeing the 18 of Kyle Lewis come down pit road. I think Garrett Gleason actually came down, did not stop in his pit box, just drove right through, and we'll probably see him make his pit stop this time by, so it should turn the race lead over to Kyle Lewis, who went with fuel only. A couple other guys behind him, Dosiak Jr., Chicano, and Durand, looked like they took on tires. I mean, let's take a look at the weather conditions here at Talladega, and ambient temperature, obviously a nice balmy 77, but triple digits for the track temperature. So with that being said, at a super speedway, just how important are those fresh Goodyears in terms of grip when you're super speedway racing?
Yeah, I would say they're pretty low, to be honest. Definitely can help you in some aggressive moves you'd like to make and some handling situations. But obviously, for the most part, handling doesn't really matter too much at the plate tracks anymore. And even with the semi-wore-out surface here at Talladega, it's just only 10 laps in the tires, not even under green. It definitely doesn't make too much of a difference. And you'll see a lot of guys who are at plate races just take tires just to make sure that they have that grip in case they get turned sideways, they can save it easier, or for pit exit at Daytona and tracks like that. So most of the time, you usually don't see guys have to take tires, but it can help for sure a little bit. But usually just pack that thing full of fuel and get back out there and try to keep your track position.
Lights out on the iRacing pace truck. We're getting ready to go back green flag racing on lap number 12. Obviously, as we get closer towards the end of the season, we tend to focus quite a bit on the drivers that are up there in the hunt for the championship. But lest we forget, there's still a bunch of guys out here that are trying to finish out the season as best they can. As a matter of fact, from 4th place on down to 10th in the standings, those guys are only separated by 44 points. That includes Jason Shuey, Vincent Valvano, Mike Tellier, Jason Gracias, Garrett Gleason, Kyle Lewis, and Steven Dosiak Jr. And with the kind of unorthodox point system that they have here in the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series, a lot of those positions can be gained or lost in these last 2 weeks. So, even though we've got the Durand-Grover show for the championship on the line, there's still a whole handful of drivers that are trying to figure out who are going to get those final spots inside the top 5 in the final standings.
Yeah, most definitely. And obviously, you'd like to close out your season with a win as well. And we've already seen quite a few different winners this season, as you usually do in a Superspeedway series such as this one. And you definitely want to close out your win, obviously, and just kind of cap off your season, at least knowing that you made a trip to victory lane and can kind of prove that you're obviously here to stay. And all latest guys up in this race have obviously won this season, and that experience can definitely carry over. But a lot of guys have yet to get their monkey off the back, like Dosiak Jr. He's up here currently leading the race. He still has yet to go to victory lane so far this season. So it'd be great for him, obviously, if he can get up here and win tonight or next week.
Dosiak Jr. only 2 top 5s on the season. Lewis only 1 top 5 on the season. They are your front row. Rodriguez and Duran going to make up row 2. Valvano, Tellier, row 3. Row 4 with Gracias and Grover. And then Alonso Chicano, John Cannizzaro, and Garrett Gleason, all still on the lead lap, going to come back to the green flag here. They head through the tri-oval. Of course, the start-finish line at Talladega is not there like it is at Daytona. It's all the way down here, almost between the tri-oval center and turn number 1. Green flag back in the air. 46 laps to go here at Talladega. Still a long ways for these guys before we get to that checkered flag.
Pretty gapped out here down the inside lane. Looks like Matthew Rodriguez looking to the rear bumper here of Kyle Lewis. He actually looks to the outside now, going for the race lead. And Dosiak Jr. has a huge push here from Duran. He's actually going to stay committed to the back of that 57 machine as some shuffling happens. Mike Tellier now up the middle.
Let's see if he can generate something. Nobody with him, but he's getting a nice toe off of Rodriguez. How about 4 wide down the back straightaway? 3 Toyotas and a Chevrolet up top side. Tellier with a cross to the bottom. Just barely cleared the nose of Lewis. He'll go to the point.
What a move. Just got involved in that damage there. As we mentioned, got some nose damage on that number 97 machine. He drove right up the middle around the entire field and took the race lead immediately. And unfortunately, obviously, that damage is not going to hurt him a little bit, but that move is incredibly impressive here on lap 12.
Austin Grover again on that top side-to-side weaving. That car is very unhappy, it seems, when it's up in the middle groove in the tri-oval, very unsteady. That's what kind of led to us seeing that first caution come out, but the guy that hooked him is pushing him back to the front again, so, a little bit of a mistake there. Chicano and Grover, they've kind of mended the fences. They're working together again up to second and third. Rodriguez now has to choose which lane he wants to block. He'll block Chicano on the top, opens the door for Grover on the bottom, who's got Tellier in tow.
Yeah, Chicano really careful right there when he got through bumper of Matthew Rodriguez and now actually tucks back in line, tries to, but there's no gap down there. Kyle Lewis looks like he'll stuff his nose down in there now, trying to get in front of the number 38 machine. Vincent Velar contact right there. They somehow save it. Everybody keeps going straight.
Nice move there by Valvano to keep the thing going in the right direction. There you see Rodriguez down the apron. Keep that in mind, folks. There is no double yellow line rule here at Talladega. We've not really seen anybody use it for forward progress here this evening. They've been kind of using it to drop to the back, but I guarantee you, the closer we get to the end of this race, the more those extra 2-3 lanes in the back straightaway are going to look very tempting.
Starting to see some of these guys with that front end damage, unfortunately, kind of get shuffled out throughout this field. Mike Tellier still done an awesome job up there in the front of the field, but John Cannizzaro just got pushed back to the back of this pack. So now we go 3 wide for the race lead. Matthew Rodriguez in the middle, Kyle Lewis up top. And it looks like Mike Tellier, even with that damage tucked up behind Austin Grover right there, he's still doing a nice job of pushing. So obviously that engine must be in good shape, but that front end, a little tore up for a lead, but currently still defending off of Matthew Rodriguez on the outside lane.
These cars are a little bit deceptive in terms of you look at the damage sustained and you think, well, there's no way that car is going to be good aerodynamically. You've got 3 cars on the inside line right there, the 83, 97, 95, who were all right in the middle of the last wreck, and they're going to be in the middle of this one. Big wreck there in turns 1 and 2. Grover around, couple of cars darting down to the inside of the racetrack and back up into the wall. Jason Gracias is one. I can't tell who that other car is. Is that Duran? No, that is Chicano in the 95 there, just now coming out from behind the safer barrier off of turn 2. 3 drivers that were involved in the first wreck involved in this one, and Chicano's gotten the worst of it.
Man, Austin Grover, just no luck here. 15 laps into the race. He's done everything he should be doing up front, leading the race, trying to control it the best he can, and gets hooked around in 2 completely different spots on the racetracks and 2 different corners, and man, just absolutely got hit there by Alonso Chicano, and just no luck for the points leader here tonight so far.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm amazed that we got away with 3 drivers involved. Usually a car on the inside going into a corner. No idea if he's going to slide up or down the racetrack. Normally a lot more cars get collected up. Everybody did a nice job of avoiding Grover as he looped it around, and saw a couple of cars dart down to the inside line. But by all rights and purposes, we should have had maybe 7, 8 cars involved in that, and we got away with 3, maybe 4 getting damage.
Yeah, unfortunately, actually, Jason Gracias and John Cannizzaro, they both made contact with the outside retaining wall, and the number 1 machine spun down their racetrack, got on the grass, came back up across the track. Alonso Chicano, who already got into Austin Grover after he got turned around, hit him head on, in the tail end. So they both have a lot of damage as well. But a huge miss there by Kyle Lewis. He was right up there chilling on the outside lane and barely managed to avoid Austin Grover spin up across the racetrack. Good reflexes there on his part, obviously. But yeah, definitely, as you mentioned, a lot more cars were probably expected to be involved there. Everybody did a good job to avoid that. Easy for me to say.
Board here with John Cannizzaro. You see he gets into the outside wall, but watch here. So he nearly ended up being the one that the 1 car pegged on his way back up the racetrack. So add Cannizzaro to the list involved in that. Mike Tellier also getting a bit of contact on the left side of his machine when I believe it was Grover started sliding back up the racetrack. So about 5 drivers collected up in this one. For Cannizzaro, especially the damage on the front end of that machine, I'm going to be very interested to see if that is a faster pair or if he's going to be able to continue on with the damage sustained. And there's your answer. You just saw there the front end of the car buff out. And it looks like he is going to be a faster pair in the hole, only 17 laps into this 57-lap event.
Yeah, really unfortunate for him there. Obviously, it was the initiative of that first accident, but definitely nowhere to go in that second one. And a lot of these guys that were involved in that first accident, surprisingly, are also involved in the second accident. You mentioned Austin Grover, Mike Tellier, and Alonso Chicano. All 3 line up there on the inside that all started the incident. They all, the 3 that were involved in the first incident. So all that damage obviously added even more onto those machines. And like I mentioned, Chicano taking the fast pair. Really interested in Mike Tellier and some of these other guys have not taken their fast pair, but obviously they believe that there will be more cautions and more chances to kind of get their car tore up, so they want to just save it for now and keep it in the bank, which is probably the smart move, honestly.
One driver we have not mentioned involved in a wreck here tonight has been David Durant. We mentioned the fact that he kind of needs a little bit of help here this evening. He obviously has to win, needs to have those valuable bonus points, 75 total race points given out to the race winner, and then he needs for the 83 of Austin Grover to hit a bit of a rough spot here tonight. So far, Grover is 2 for 2 in being involved in our 2 cautions. So, never say never in a Superspeedway series. As things are playing out right now, David Duran definitely could have a shot heading into Daytona next week to be able to have a last-minute charge at the championship. But then again, as I mentioned, still a long ways to go, so the 24 is not out of the woods yet of not getting involved in an incident.
Yeah, for sure. And even though obviously Austin Grover is super unlucky there with being the car who got turned around, nothing of his own doing from the race lead. But luckily for him, on the other side of that, he actually hasn't gotten all that much damage, all things considered, in between both those incidents. Obviously, the first one there, he kind of got turned around and spun a couple cars out with the tail end of his car. But even in the second incident there, he got lightly hit on the front end of the number 95 machine, and then nobody else really got collected, at least into him, in that incident. So even though he obviously got a lot of damage here, it looks like he's got all his option repairs probably fixed up here, and he's ready to get back going. But no real need, I should say, to get his fast repair taken. And at the moment, at least, he's still out there cruising with that damage, and hopefully isn't going to hinder him too badly here.
Gleason, Alonso Chicano down pit road. Gleason for his scheduled stop. Chicano to maybe top off the fuel tank here, maybe take on another set of tires for this upcoming restart to start towards the rear of the field. So Kyle Lewis will be leading us once again back to green. He's now 2 for 2 in being the control car on the restarts. Matthew Rodriguez will be alongside of him, so an all Camry front row. Chevrolets line up in row 2 with David Durant on the bottom and Stephen Dosiak Jr. on the top side, and then single file all the way back there with Grover, Cannizzaro, Gracias, Tellier. If people are new to this series and they're wondering why all those guys are not doubling up back there, if you come to pit road On the 1 to green signal, you have to line up at the tail end of the longest line, which usually ends up being the inside line. So it looks like a rather interesting staggered start when they go back green, but that's the way that the ruling goes. And those guys that are up there on the top side, like Rodriguez and Dosiak, it puts the pressure on them to make sure that they get themselves a good restart, because otherwise they could easily get freight trained before they even get out of turn number 2.
Yeah, especially for those guys, obviously, who have those tore-up race cars at the 58 machine there of John Canizaro. And with the three laps now of pacing you have at the plate tracks, which iRacing changed, I believe, about a year ago to kind of shorten the caution lengths here at the super speedways. To obviously get that damage repaired before going a lap down, you have the exit pit road, and then you kind of have to come back down to make sure you do that. So that's the reason why I'd assume at least most of those guys did that there. But yeah, only 2 cars up here on the outside lane. That's going to obviously hurt them too, not having any of that help behind them, really, at least on the initial jump, to try to help for their momentum. So they're going to have to do a really good job making sure they're staying connected and try to get a good run there on Kyle Lewis for the race lead.
Pace truck going to make the left-hand turn to pit road. We're going to be going back green flag racing here with, if my calculations are correct, 39 laps left in this one. Still a long ways to go for these guys. I'm pretty sure that these guys cannot make it on fuel the rest of the way either. So we haven't really had a pit strategy race so far this season. Usually the cautions have broken it up enough that they've been able to make the pit stops for fuel under caution conditions, but that's always something to keep in the back of the mind for these guys. As the green flag out, we're into turn 1. Kyle Lewis, easily too big of a lead going through 1 and 2 as he had about 3-4 car lengths. He's going to be bait for David Durand, who has a big run. He jumps up to pick up Rodriguez and Dosiak.
Yeah, Kyle Lewis there went as early as he possibly could. Matthew Rodriguez just went to look to the outside. David Durand with a huge block there on the number 57 machine. And now looks like they're going to be 4 wide with Austin Grover all the way down the apron. The point leader being super aggressive here early on.
Now let's see if he's going to back out, as it's very difficult to maintain the car on the apron through the corners. You saw the back end wanting to step out on him. He's going to tuck back around the 9th position. Lewis able to hold off all those moves on the back straightaway. He's going to lead them through the tri-oval. Valvano helping to push him. Durand's not giving up, though. He's got Canizaro. Big side draft there through the tri-oval. Who's going to lead this lap? It's going to be close. I think it might have been Durand by a splitter. 3 wide, 2 rows deep from second on back.
Durand here, track control all 3 of his lanes with the number 24 machine, and now Matthew Rodriguez back in the back bumper of his car, and he's trying to push him up there in that 3rd lane, and it's kind of 2x2 tandems up here at the front. Mike Tilley obviously down there on the inside, but these guys kind of getting huge runs by themselves, and really impressed here with John Canizaro with that front end damage I mentioned earlier. Definitely going to hurt him out in clean air, and unfortunately looks like that's kind of blocking down the middle lane just a touch, but now Matthew Rodriguez gets hung out to dry as David Durand goes to the race lead and jumps all the way down in front of Kyle Lewis now off turn number 4.
David Durand to the point. As mentioned, he's basically got a win here tonight to keep his hopes for winning the championship alive. Obviously, he would also like to be able to get the bonus point available for leading the most laps. I believe that pays out 5 bonus points. Is on board here with Jason Gracias. Now, obviously, we're sitting rather low in the car with the camera angle as he's backing out in the center there. Rodriguez going around the top side, but I mean, are the drivers sitting that low? Is it basically when you're up on somebody's bumper, you can't see that other car up ahead of them? You're just basically committed to the car, you see out your windshield?
Yeah, for sure. That's probably the easiest things to do, too, is to follow the car in front of you. They barely make a twitch, and without even realizing it, you actually move with them. And it's very easy to kind of get up and hook somebody on your outside or your inside lane. And you'll see that probably sometime tonight. It's very easy to do. But Rodriguez gets turned right there in front of Mike Tilley, chopped him off down in the corner. Mike Tilley did not live for him.
And it looks like there's going to only be 1 driver around out of turn number 4, that being Matthew Rodriguez. So the caution waves for the 3rd time today. In relation to the wrecks we've had so far tonight, we kind of got away with one there, as Rodriguez was running about the 3rd, 4th position at the time. Yellow flag out, caution number 3. Let's go back to turn 4, see what happened.
Yeah, it looked like obviously the outside lane there was kind of falling apart. No real help there up there for Matthew Rodriguez in the number 57 Toyota Camry, and just try to shoot that gap down the inside right there in front of Mike Tellier. Not sure if that was a team communication there at all, but Mike Tellier was kind of getting a big run and closed the gap fast, and as soon as the number 57 came down, unfortunately, it just kind of hooked him around the number, across the nose, of the number 97, and as you mentioned, obviously everybody else managed to get through that unscathed, luckily, but Mike Tellier now involved 3 for 3 on the incidents, unfortunately, and not really much of his own doing.
We'll ride on board here with Mike Tellier, see if maybe he was breathing the throttle a little, trying to let Matthew Rodriguez in, or if Rodriguez thought he could clear himself. It looked like there was about a car length of space, and maybe just a misjudgment by the 57, as there you see the contact. Mike Tellier nearly going around in his own right, but able to keep it pointed the right direction, and caution comes out once again here as we are closing in on the halfway at Talladega Superspeedway. At what point, if you're one of these guys that have got some pretty good damage, I mean, we've already talked about Canonzaro with a lot of front-end damage on his machine, Mike Tellier with the damage on his car. We know the 83 has been involved in a couple of incidents. At what point of the race do you then think, okay, this is a safe time to be able to take on the faster pair? Because it's kind of been varied with some of these drivers. Some of them have taken it with about 20 to go. Some have waited until about 10 to go. Some of them we've even seen wait until the final restart, if there is one. Sometimes they save the faster pair and don't even get to use it.
Yeah, there's never a safe time to take that faster pair at Talladega. It's always chaotic, obviously. And, the theory I always see a lot of guys make is they always like to wait until the very end to take their faster pair. But honestly, that's usually the most likely time to have that crash happen. That usually takes you out because everybody's going for the race lead and the win. So I usually like to kind of prepare myself for that. And if you get taken out, it's kind of just unfortunate luck at that point. But as long as your car is just too damaged to not feel like you have a chance to win with that damage, that's when you should probably take it towards the end of the race. Definitely, I would wait until about 10 laps to go, maybe just a little more than that, to try to take that and just set yourself up for that run. But obviously, with about 10 or 11 cars here tonight, these guys are going to be pretty easy to kind of get themselves through the field. Obviously, we've seen 3 and 4 wide racing, I should say, especially with the yellow line rule not coming into effect. So it shouldn't be too difficult for these guys to get themselves towards the front. You might see some guys wait until the very end since track position isn't as important as it could be with a bigger field or a different racetrack. But definitely a game of risk, and it always seems to not go your way. You'll wait the entire time, and then a caution doesn't come out, like you mentioned, at the end of the race to take it, or you take it early and you immediately get involved in an accident and your car is destroyed. So it's definitely a very bad balancing act to kind of play risky with, but it could definitely be a strategic call that could also play into your favor. So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Well, we've run 2 previous races here at Talladega so far this season, race number 2 and race number 5 on the schedule. And for anyone that's tuned in to Flatout Racing Network broadcast, I love statistics. Well, if we look at those last 2 races, the guys that were up front most in those races did not even finish inside of the podium. David Duran less the most laps in the first Talladega race. He finished in 5th. And Tristan Mayer, he led the most laps in mid-September, and he finished all the way back in 14th place. One thing that kind of stood out to me, if you look at the 2 previous Talladega winners, Robert Kenny and Vincent Albano, they only led a combined total of 7 laps. Their fastest lap of the race was on lap number 5, both of them. So I would love to be able to have the telemetry to know who turned their fastest lap so far on lap number 5, because I wonder if the trend could go 3 for 3.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great point there. Obviously, the plate tracks, it's definitely really wild. And, a lot of guys say that the only lap that counts is that last one. And I actually just went through each and every single race. I just discovered that not a single driver who has led the most laps so far than the 7 races this season has gone on to carry that into victory lane. So, obviously, if anything, actually can kind of put yourself in a bad position because you're kind of the guy everybody targets at to try to get around and to beat for the race win. So, it definitely is a very interesting game of chess, if you will, at the end of these plate races, for sure.
And obviously, we throw out the statistics, but when it comes to Superspeedway, statistics don't mean a thing. But to your point, with the fact that we've not had a single driver that's led the most laps in the race go on to take the checkered flag, it's kind of a rock and a hard place, because you want to go up there and you want to lead the most laps, because that's 10 bonus points you get at the end of the night. Even if you don't win the race, there's every possibility that you could gain the most points total on the evening because you've got those 10 bonus points to be able to lean back on.
Yeah, most definitely, and obviously, like I mentioned earlier, David Duran probably going to be the guy going for that, that most laps led bonus points, trying to get everything he can on Grover there to try to take over that points championship lead heading into next week, or at least close that margin. And like you mentioned, statistics don't really matter too much to plate tracks, and obviously he's out there just trying to lead every single lap, as most of these guys are. But definitely would like to be the guy who breaks that streak here in the closest stages of this season to try to close in that gap.
bonus points that David Duran would be looking at right now would be to have the fastest lap of the race. That would give him 5 bonus points. He's already led a lap here tonight, so that's 2 bonus points. 10 bonus points for leading the most laps of the race, and if he's able to, he started this race from 6th, then Grover started back in 11th, so it's going to be really close for him to be able to try and get the most positions gained in the race, that very important 10 bonus points. Right now, he is up 5 from his starting spot. Grover is up 6, so 1 position advantage for the 83, and the 83 can make more forward progress since he's going to be restarting back in the 5th position. Durant going to be the leader when we come back to the green. He chooses the top side here, a little bit interesting, as he will have the fresh car of John Cannizzaro behind him, who took on his faster pair, Kyle Lewis and Vincent Valvano. They're going to be on the inside lines. The green flag waves. We're back underway. 33 to go at Dega.
Once again, all those cars lined up there, single file in the back with a EUL penalty. So the entire field now, as John Cannizzaro gets behind Kyle Lewis for the 3rd position. Every single car on the racetrack now is single file lined up with the huge gaps in between a lot of these guys. And obviously those runs are going to generate, especially on David Duran, who's about a 5 car length lead here off turn number 2.
Cannizzaro down there to the apron. I don't know if that was by design or if he was maybe trying to get out of people's way. Kyle Lewis, big run, jumps to the top side. Valvano's been pretty committed to that 18 here today. He stays with him again, trying to push Kyle Lewis to the race lead. Duran, Cannizzaro on the bottom. And look at Steven Dosiak Jr., Matthew Rodriguez. All of a sudden, what was single file into 1 and 2 is double wide, 4 rows deep.
3 wide now. Matthew Rodriguez with a huge run up there on the outside, but unfortunately for him, once again, just no help there to carry that momentum with him as he's going to fall back in line here, probably behind Steven Dosiak Jr. But David Duran, obviously really early on here, being super aggressive, trying to lead every single lap he possibly can as he picks up another lap lead right there on lap number 25. And he's going to be pulling these blocks all night long, probably trying to defend those positions. And it'd be interesting to see how these guys react to that right at the race, if they know the position he's in, or if they're going to try to, kind of maybe give a little bit of payback there at the end of the race and try to keep him from going to victory lane.
The last time out at Talladega, Steven Dosiak Jr., that 55, had 5 bonus points at the end of the race for having the fastest lap in the event, running a 50.021. At this point in time, we are yet to have a driver hit a lap time anywhere close. I believe the driver right now that has the fastest lap of the race would be the 58 of John Cannizzaro with a 50.794.
Single file here for the top 4 positions. Looks like Matthew Rodriguez trying to get clear, as well as Kyle Lewis is down a stack up on the inside. Kyle Lewis with a huge run, and that shift of momentum is very easy to happen here. And unfortunately, there's only about 4 cars up there on the outside, currently kind of spaced out for him to get the help from. But everybody up front here being a little committed to the, I was going to say they're committed to the 24 machine, but John Cannizzaro just ditched him, went down beneath the yellow line. Like I mentioned earlier, it is not out of bounds here in this series. And now Duran was once leading. He's going to get shuffled all the way 3 wide on the top side. Probably had to fall back to this group here.
A lot of slicing and dicing on the back straightaway there, with Gracias jumping to the top, Duran going up the block, Cannizzaro to the bottom. You had about every driver in the field take about 4 different lanes down the back straightaway. Rodriguez to the apron with Cannizzaro through the tri-oval to pass Austin Grover. Rodriguez with the momentum, going to keep it down there. Oh, I think his left side's hooked that apron just at least a little bit. That car almost spun around on him, but he's going to have the inside advantage. No help into turn 1. 2 cars in the middle. That's Grassi, Cannizzaro. 4 cars on the top. Now Tellier has picked up Rodriguez.
The guy who just turned him was right behind him here. The last caution by Tellier now right up behind him, trying to get that inside lane momentum. Yeah, really aggressive move there, but Matthew Rodriguez probably just trying that out, at least for now, for later in the event, to make sure he knows how to make that move, as now Cannizzaro is going to block that back down to the bottom. And I almost wonder, David Duran there, and as soon as he got past the race lead, he kind of got shuffled out of this of the leader, the top 5, excuse me, of this lead pack. He kind of dropped back behind this pack. I'm almost wondering if he's actually trying to get that fastest lap, as you mentioned, to get those bonus points. As now Rodriguez uses the apron line once again to try to get underneath John and Cannizzaro for the race lead.
See if he can make it work. Mike Tellier's going to get into him, and Cannizzaro goes around. Let's see if everyone avoids him. Remember, Cannizzaro already a faster pair in the hole. Everyone avoids the 58, a harmless spin headed towards turn 1, but that could have been huge for John Cannizzaro. A 3-wide move for the lead through the tri-oval that really, I don't think, was going to work no matter which way you slice it.
Luckily, the pace truck isn't solid there, else would have just clobbered on the driver's side door. But yeah, really lucky spin there, but John Cannizzaro gets turned in front of the field of Talladega and is not yet hit. And that's really lucky, obviously, as you mentioned, just taking that faster pair Managed to stay off the outside of retaining the wall as well, and he'll keep going here.
Mike Tellier was a little bit conflicted, like he wanted to maybe go down on the apron with Rodriguez, but he was all ready to Rodriguez's right rear quarter panel. He then thought about trying to go up the middle, and I think Rodriguez may have pushed up a little bit there. We know that it's pretty difficult for a driver to keep it down on the apron. The car naturally with that banking wants to push up towards the yellow line, and unfortunately really tight 3 wide there in a section of the track that it's tough enough to go 3 wide when you're all up on the right side of the double yellow line.
Yeah, these guys obviously not even halfway through this event here, and obviously have proven that they're not holding anything back every single lap. And it looked like Mike Taylor, as you mentioned, trying to go for that gap in the middle, I'd have to assume, and unfortunately just barely caught the right rear quarter panel of Matthew Rodriguez, who was all the way down next to that grass up there beneath the apron. And unfortunately for them, too, just got connected once again, as we saw them both get connected in the last incident. And John Caranzaro, instant victim there once again. He gets turned around, but Mike Taylor, obviously he's yet to take his fast repair, so he's not in a terrible position here, but he's been involved in all 4 incidents so far here tonight, and just kind of unfortunate timing, and he's going to get a penalty once again to go back to the back of the field after causing that incident. But I'm curious to see if he, kind of changes his game plan here, maybe comes down a little bit or takes his fast repair.
Everybody down pit road with the exception of David Durance. Looks like the 24, who was at the front, got shuffled to the back, will be back up at the front again for the upcoming restart. When they were on the back straightaway 1 lap ago, they crossed the halfway point of this event. Second half of this Talladega race left to go. And all 11 drivers that took the green to start this race are still in and still on the lead lap. What does the second half of this Talladega race have in store? We are going to be finding out very shortly when we get ready to go back green flag racing. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. We'll be back here for the restart in race number 8 of the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series. You're not going to miss a thing as we're going FRN side by side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Teague. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley.
Kyle Lewis going to be the one to lead us back to green once again. As a matter of fact, a very similar looking front row from a couple of restarts ago with Rodriguez to the top side. It's an all Toyota 1-2-3 with Jason Gracias on the inside of row number 2. John Cananzaro will line up in 4th. Stephen Dosiak Jr. in 5th. And Vincent Valvano is going to be in 6th. Couple of drivers you saw there coming down pit road at the 1 to green signal. Durant, Chicano, Tellier, Grover, and Gleason will line up in 7th back through 11th. You saw the promo there for the NCRA Talladega special event. The date has been set for that, Saturday, October 30th. is when the 2021 version of that NR 2003 special event will be run. The green flag going to be scheduled to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you, the fans, are going to get into a possible decision as to who's going to win that race. Going to be some fan-orientated things going on during that event, so be sure to join us here for the 2021 NSRA Talladega special event here exclusively on the Flatout Racing Network on September 30th. But getting ready here for the restart, second half of the race. Lucas, it seems like doesn't matter what type of a first race we have at a super speedway, the aggressiveness always seems to kick up. We've got, right now, only 2 drivers that have taken on faster pairs. John Cannizzaro, 1 caution ago. Chicano, 2 cautions ago. All the rest of these guys, they're out there, most of them with damaged race cars, still being able to be up to speed, still able to generate runs, still to be competitive, but we know that they're not going to look nearly as pretty here as we get closer to this checkered flag. A lot of them are going to have a 1 next to their name with the faster pair before we get to probably even the final 10 laps of this race.
Yeah, we're definitely getting down to it, and even Kyle Lewis here just jumps off and takes the race lead with command there on the restart. He still has it right front damage as well. And I looking through the field, and besides number 58 machine who just got tore up there, I don't think anybody else is looking their faster pair, and a lot of these guys still have a lot of damage. So it'd be intriguing to see as we are on lap 32 here, 57, just past halfway. There's still a long ways to go for these guys to try to keep their cars clean and be in good shape here for the end of the race. So definitely a lot of damages now. Jason Gracias goes all the way down the inside. Now looks for the race lead here with Kyle Lewis 3 wide in the middle.
Even Dosiak Jr. goes to the apron with Gracias. Rodriguez with Cannizzaro on the top side, and they're going to have the run down the back straightaway and go to first and second easily by 2 car lengths over the next machine, which would be Gracias. Nice hookup there by the 57 and the 58. Numbers in order and in order on the running grid, and now Rodriguez jumps up to the top side. Looks like he might be moving out of the way there for John Cannizzaro to go back to the point.
Yeah, Kyle Lewis, if you remember last time we were here at Talladega a few weeks ago, he was actually leading coming off of turn number 4. Unfortunately, kind of got turned a little sideways there with Robert Kenny, and he actually lost that race in the closing stages there coming to the trial. So obviously, unfortunately, he just got shuffled out of the race lead, but definitely looking to try to get some, a comeback here at Talladega and try to avenge the Superspeedway here in Alabama.
Turn 4 has played a big part into the outcome of races during the entirety of this season. You know, that Talladega race you were just regaling. We've got, of course, last week at iRacing Superspeedway where Mike Tellier lost the lead to Rodriguez off turn 4 on the final lap. Daytona, the 2008 version, we saw Matthew Rodriguez pass the top 4 as they wrecked off of turn 4 to be able to pick up the victory through the infield grass. So that final corner, it's very important when it comes to finishes here at Superspeedways.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like you mentioned earlier, from the drop of the green flag, the Superspeedway here at Talladega, the start finish line, obviously way out past the exit of the tri-oval, and compared to most tracks like Daytona, it's definitely a huge game changer, and it's exactly what cost the race here for Kyle Lewis back last time it came here a few weeks ago, and it could change a lot. And it's almost like a whole nother corner, as you mentioned. Turn 4 is obviously extremely important, but it's not really the last corner at this track. It kind of has 5 turns, if you will, just because of the fact that trial is the last thing you have before you come to the start-finish line. So it can definitely make a huge difference in these races and who ends up getting the checkered flag at the end of the day.
During the course of the season as well, we've seen a lot of alliances take place between different drivers. Usually we'll see a couple of drivers work together during one race, and then they find some new dancing partners a week later. I have to wonder, in the case of Austin Grover and David Duran, one trying to lock up the championship, the other trying to keep the championship hopes alive, you know, how much of the diplomatic suit did they put on for this race, saying, hey, please work with me, please get me to the front, I need all the points I can get.
Yeah, they definitely get their teammates on tap for them and trying to help them out as much as they can. And obviously, David Duran, he's showing he's got some friends out here. He's working well with a lot of guys and trying to just get himself up towards the front to lead the entire race here. And it's kind of a between a rock and a hard place, though, being a teammate like that to one of those guys battle for the championship, because obviously you want to go out there, you want to go win the race for yourself. You also want to help your buddy out, and you kind of have some hard feelings compared to the other guy that you're trying to for the other guy who the race you have the championship against. So it's definitely a really interesting place to kind of be put into by those guys and those people's requests, if you will. And David Duran now with Matthew Rodriguez once again on the outside lane, and it looks like number 57 just got the fence there, but he's up there top 3, still trying to get the race lead and lead as many laps as he possibly can here.
Dosiak Jr. now jumps up from behind Canonzaro. He'll pick up Gracias and Mike Tellier in the middle line. Kyle Lewis now there with Canonzaro. Let's not forget, Canonzaro, he's a driver that we're used to seeing on Tuesday nights racing in the TNR Big Block, Master Millwright Big Block Series. Not really used to seeing him run on super speedways. That's because last week he made his debut here in the Sunday Super Speedway Series, led 9 laps at iRacing Super Speedway, started on the pole and finished in the 8th position. That car has seemed to be up front pretty much the entirety of tonight. I think he might have, at this point, led the most laps so far. And right now looking like one of the guys to possibly beat for this checkered flag. I mean, how cool would that be for a guy that's only making his 2nd start on the season to be able to take a checkered flag this early?
Yeah, definitely learning very quickly. Now he gets a huge run. It looks top of 3 here. Mike Tiller there in the middle, and definitely pick it up pretty quick. Obviously, as you mentioned, up here leading laps and being up front the entirety of this race so far. Very minimal damage in the back of the number 38 machine, and doing a nice job. Definitely huge difference between this and Dirt Big Modifieds for sure. Is now he actually looks 3 wide at the top for the race lead.
Durant back there with Garrett Gleason right now about 0.7 of a second off the back bumper of the last car in this lead pack, that being Austin Grover. Can't tell if he's in the draft or not, or if he's too far back. Looks like he might be drafting back up there to this lead group, and if they continue to run double wide, 3 wide, that's going to bring him back into the picture. But I was a little worried for him, at least for the moment there, because we know the last thing you want to do, be hung out to dry with no draft at a super speedway, especially if you're in the scenario that Durant is coming into tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And Garrett Gleason there behind him. We mentioned he's been kind of staying out and just picking up a couple laps led here and there under caution and get those bonus points. But he's done a nice job just staying out back here behind the pack, watching it all unfold, and just keeping his car completely crisp, clean. He doesn't have a scratch on the number 7 Camaro, and he's doing a nice job of just staying out back here. No need to be up there at this point in the race. And as we mentioned earlier, the guy who's led the most laps has never won, and usually the guy who does win ends up with single-digit numbers at the end of the day. And so that could very easily be the strategy he's just trying to play out here. Stay in the back, keep the car clean, and be at the end when it counts.
A couple of Camrys there in that middle line hooked up, Gracias and Tellier. They've also got David Duran now there with him, 3 cars on the top. Now they're going to get more. Kyle Lewis jumps up in front. Steven Dosiak Jr. jumps up in front. Just like that, 3 cars on the top, 3 on the bottom, turned into 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom.
Little wobble there by Kyle Lewis up there trying to push Steven Dosiak Jr. through the race lead, which he did. He actually was able to gather it, luckily, but now looks at the number 1 machine. Jason Gracias goes up the middle, and now he didn't get shuffled through wide top. Not sure if he dropped out intentionally there or if he just kind of got shuffled out, but unfortunately for him, he's going to go to the back of this pack now and try to work his way back up to the field.
Seen just how easy it is to be able to generate a run and the speed difference when you're able to get hooked up with another driver. I mean, instinctually, as a Super Speedway Series driver, Grover! Oh, man, he got the apron back up across the nose of Mike Tellier. I think everyone avoided him, but 3rd incident that the 83, the points leader, has been involved in here tonight, bringing out the 5th caution.
It looked like, wow, his wheel disconnected to the center of the corner right there. I was wondering what happened there. It looked like he pulled down on the apron like he had a problem, and then his car just turned back up across the racetrack. And if you look at the replay here, his front tires are locked all the way to the left, which means that his wheel, unfortunately, came disconnected from iRacing, and just really unfortunate luck there. Obviously, the points leader once again getting turned around and not of his own doing, and Mike Tellier also unfortunately involved in that with nowhere to go.
Chicano getting a piece of it there as well on the right side of his 95. Let's go on board here with the 83 and just see exactly what he saw. We're going to go inside of the cockpit and just watch, to your point, how the wheel just hooks to the left, locks to the left there. Boy, that's a tough break there for the sixth leader once again, but almost kind of like the Canonzaro incident. Yes, he does go up and he gets some contact with the outside safety barrier, but that could have been a lot worse. And I mean, the good news is 3 incidents he's been involved in, and Austin Grover has yet to use his fast repair. So he still has that lifeline to be able to lean back on as we're now getting closer and closer to 15 laps to go.
Yeah, David Duran's championship hopes are definitely obviously increasing the more and more Austin Grover keeps getting involved in these incidents. And nice job there, Austin Grover. Obviously couldn't really actually do anything since this wheel came unplugged, but definitely got fairly lucky there. Didn't look like he got too much damage on the nose of that machine, but curious to see how bad that back end damage hurt him with the spoiler up in the air.
Be a helpless feeling, and of course as well, unfortunate that it happened. They're going into a corner. It happened on the straightaway. Drivers might have been able to make some avoidance, and we'd have gotten away with it. not having a car spun out or any cars with some damage, but heading into a turn, very difficult to avoid a machine that, to your point, the wheel disconnecting, no communication with iRacing, and no idea of where that car is eventually going to end up. David Duran going to stay out here and lead a lap. I don't know if he might be playing the strategy of maybe coming to pit road this time, or if he's actually going to be leading us back to green. But just before we had the incident there with Grover in turn 3, I was going to bring up the point that the speed that these guys are able to generate, even with just a 2-car tandem, instinctually as a Superspeedway Series racer, you want to jump up there. You want to get that momentum, get that push, or stop that run. But it just seems like there's just too much difference in speed of the car that jumps out of line to the cars that are already hooked up. It's a really risky maneuver for these guys to try and block those runs here, and it's kind of been what we've seen during the course of the season that has led to quite a number of our big wrecks.
Yeah, without a doubt, definitely. And obviously, David Duran, we've seen so far throughout the course of the 40 laps completed here today at Talladega. He's probably been the most aggressive guy on those blocks, if you will, and not really, I don't think he's really done too much to kind of cause a stack up or an incident. He's done a nice job of kind of understanding when it's too late or when he has to get out of the way. But yeah, to your point, definitely very easy to kind of catch yourself trying to make those blocks, and the runs are just so huge. Like, it's just really difficult to to carry that momentum and not run over the guy in front of you who tries to pull a block like that. And we've seen in the Cup Series, even in real life, with the new package they've got back in 2019, and just the runs are so huge. It just, you carry such an insane speed difference, and for a lot of guys who aren't used to driving these race cars, it makes it even more incredibly challenging because you feel like you can jump up there and take that momentum away and kind of defend that run, but it's just super easy to kind of make that difference. We saw Rodriguez there earlier on in the race, shoot for, just even for a gap in the middle, even if it's not for the race lead, just to shoot for a gap like that. The momentum difference between him and Mike Taylor was so huge they got himself turned around. So it's just extremely easy to do that. As now David Duran, he's going to pull off the racetrack, and he'll come down pit road and take the fuel he needed there.
So far this season, it's kind of been the year of the Camry. Toyota with 4 victories on the season, 2 for Chevrolet, and Ford only 1 victory. That was here at Talladega with the guy that's going to be leading us back to green, Vincent Valvano. There are only 2 Fords in the field here tonight. Right now, they are scheduled to restart in first and second. Cannizzaro pulling up to the outside of the 38, so we'll see if the Blue Oval can get their second win on the season to tie them with Chevrolet for second so far this year. Jason Gracias and Matthew Rodriguez, a couple of Camrys going to line up in row 2. Chevrolets make up row 3 with Stephen Dosiak Jr. on the bottom and Garrett Gleason on the top. Kyle Lewis, Austin Grover, Mike Tellier, Alonso Chicano, and David Duran are going to complete the rest of the field. Mike Tellier, add him to the list of drivers that has now taken on his faster pair, as we're going to have 15 laps to go officially when we go back green. So Cannizzaro, Chicano, and Tellier, the only 3 drivers right now that do not have that mulligan, do not have that lifeline for the remainder of this race.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, obviously getting down to it here, because I mentioned 15 laps to go here on the restart. Mike Taylor obviously feeling like after getting even more notice, how much unfortunately that number 97 machine, he's been out here just an absolute wreck magnet, getting hit by everybody in every single incident, just nowhere to go. And that one, unfortunately, once again, we lost the Grover in front of him, and he's just been collected in each and every single one. So definitely, I would say probably a smart move here to take his faster and try to set himself up for the run of the checker here with only 15 laps to go.
I should bring up 57 scheduled laps. In the last 2 Talladega races that we've had, both races have gone into overtime. So that's another thing that these guys have to keep in mind for when they eventually choose to take on the faster pair. They're not necessarily shooting for the completion of lap 57. There could be another 3-4 laps of overtime that they'd have to prepare for as well. And again, let's also remember that there is unlimited attempts at overtime green-white checkers. We ran 61 laps in the first Talladega race, 60 laps in the second Talladega race. Only needed 1 attempt at overtime green-white checkers in both of those events.
Yeah, I'm definitely most likely probably going to see that here today with how the aggression level has already proved to be so far throughout this the course of the event. But Vincent Valvano, to your point, up here, he's going to take the lead on the restart. He's going to get a huge jump down in front of Jason Gracias, and now John Cannizzaro apply to drop back down in line there in second place behind him if he can, and probably try to give him a push here off turn number 2.
See if Cannizzaro is going to be able to tuck down behind the 38 car. Instead, he'll stay on the top, tries to get to the right rear quarter panel of Valvano. He's got Matthew Rodriguez in tow. He's not quite there just yet, but the 57 with a big run to his back bumper. Let's see if he can push him down the back straightaway. Gracias already the back bumper of the 38.
3 cars on the inside versus 2 cars on the outside is now the help behind, trying to catch up and help both of those lanes. Is now Matthew Rodriguez getting a nice push there to John Canizaro, trying to push him out to the race lead, but now Valvano gets a shove for the number 1 machine behind him there, the number Toyota Camry of Jason Gracias, and they're going to get the momentum back down off turn number 4, coming to the start-finish line.
Kyle Lewis top to bottom and then back to the top, back to the bottom, all the way through 3 and 4. Kind of the deciding factor into which line moves. Now the numbers are on the inside line. Valvano with the advantage going to lead them back to the start-finish line. Gracias trying to clear himself on Canizaro for second. Stack him up 3 rows of double wide. Valvano right now the only driver with nobody side by side with him.
Garrett Gleason, as mentioned earlier, he was out back riding behind the pack the entire race so far and just trying to keep his car clean. He's now up here battling for position. He leaves his spot in go time here and then closing his stages as we close in on 10 laps to go. He's the 3rd car up here on the outside lane, currently in the 6th position and still taking it fairly easy, not making any aggressive moves to tear his own car up, but definitely up here trying to position himself in this race.
Now inside of this lead group, you've got 4 former winners on the season. Valvano, Gracias, Rodriguez, and Garrett Gleason have all been to victory lane. The most recent, of course, Rodriguez last week. Garrett Gleason 2 weeks ago at the Legacy Daytona. Valvano continuing to hold the inside line. Now he's hugging the double yellow line right now, which under normal circumstances would be the place to be, and any move would be made on the top side against you. But again, there's no double yellow line rule here in the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series, so you've got to be aware of those lines down there, these inside lanes on the back straightaway if somebody makes a move.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely, obviously, can't protect that down there on the apron because then you'll kind of get yourself shuffled out. As now, Vincent Valvano gets turned right there by Steven Dosiak Jr. A good catch by him, and now John Canizaro, I saw him make a big move up there on the outside there. Jason Gracias, the number 1 machine, David Duran, made the move kind of with them simultaneously back behind him. They both went 3 wide top, now get up. They got themselves up towards the race lead, and they're going to battle for it here with Alonso Chicano, try to help them out up there.
Obviously, Durand would love to have somebody push him to the front, but he can kind of help himself as well with picking someone to push to the front and go there with him. Canizaro appears to be that driver. Chicano right there as well in the 95. Now, we really haven't seen Alonso Chicano make his way back up to the front since he was involved in that wreck all the way back around lap 12, lap 13. Now he's up here inside of the top 5. We might not have heard the last of the 95. Kind of been on pins and needles here for the last 20 laps or so since he was already a faster pair in the hole, but now he feels it's go time.
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned, that probably just kind of taking an easy out back, kind of like Garrett Gleason was, even though he hasn't gotten any damage so far in his number 7 machine. But now John just got shuffled out there, the number 58. The entire field now is single file, but file won't be for long.
That's not going to last for sure. When they're single file, they accordion up, the runs get generated, and there you see Dosiak to the top, Gracias to the top, further back Canizaro to the top against Alonso Chicano. It's going to be the 55 and the 1 trying to hook up here into turn 1. Ooh, that was not the best time for Gracias to reach the back bumper of Dosiak heading into the corner where both of them were trying to get the bumpers lined up. Now Gracias going to jump even higher. He's going to pick up Canizaro, has a run. Look at Rodriguez. He goes to the apron. David Durand with him, and they get a little squirrely.
4 wide over 3rd contact. Kyle Lewis David Durand gets
no.
and he saves it. Kyle Lewis also spinning. They both went straight. No caution flag yet. I don't expect it to come out.
And Durand going to go through the grass, comes back up onto the racing surface. Neither driver spun out, so it would not count as a multi-car wreck since neither driver actually wrecked. But that is a tough break for David Durand, who's trying to keep himself in the championship battle heading into Daytona next week. It's now a 4-car battle up at the front. Valvano Dosiak versus Gracias Canizaro.
Yeah, super unfortunate there for David Durand, obviously getting turned around, but as you mentioned as well, not having that caution flag come out separates the entire field now, and these top 4 up front, I'm assuming, just trying to keep themselves in line, separate themselves from that group behind them to make sure they're the 4 cars who battle for the race lead, and David Durand, obviously, rooting against that. He wants these guys to kind of wreck it up a little bit, cause the yellow, and get the field badge back up, as having now 2x2 for the race lead in this 4-car pack.
These top 4 could easily get themselves pulled away from Gleason, Rodriguez, Tellier, Chicano, who are about to get formed up, but they are side by side 2 rows deep. So watch top of your screen. That second pack's going to reel them in. All of a sudden, our lead pack is going to double from 4 to 8 in the next lap or so.
Yeah, that second pack not quite as formed up as his lead pack is, but Garrett Gleason with that clean number 7 machine, he's kind of pulling these guys all together. And now Matthew Rodriguez gets up for the back bumper of him for that 5th position now. Looks like they're going to try to stay in line. Matthew Rodriguez actually looks to the outside, but now they have that draft and that toe off the cars in front of them. So like as you mentioned just now, these 4 cars are going to group these other 4 cars. They're going to get a huge pack here of 8 cars for the rest of this race.
I'm not certain if Austin Grover didn't get a piece or get checked up from that incident there with Kyle Lewis and David Durant in the back straightaway, but he's actually back in the same pack as the 24 and the 18. Score him in the 11th spot, Durant in 9th, only 2 positions ahead, so both of them in close proximity to each other. Now, while that takes Austin Grover right now out of the conversation for getting the 10 bonus points for most positions picked up, he's got the 24 within striking distance, which means at least for right now, he's maintaining the gap between himself and Durant for that points lead going into next week.
Yeah, most definitely, and I would say we're probably expecting to see another caution with 8 laps to go. This group up front obviously going to get very dicey the closer we get to the end of the stages of this race, and now with 8 cars up here, it's going to be a lot more dicey than it was with just the 4 cars, and now you already see currently single file with Matthew Rodriguez taking the point down the back straightaway with Lawson Chicano behind him, but these guys are going to continue to shuffle around and try to get themselves up front, and that's exactly what Austin Grover and David Duran need to have that caution flag come out and bunch them back up for the rest of the field.
The fact Matthew Rodriguez, the only driver so far this season that has gone to victory lane multiple times. He's had some very interesting ways in how he's done it, though. He ended up back at Daytona, going through the infield grass and passing the top 4 as they wrecked to be able to pick up his first victory, as we're going to be 4 wide through the tri-oval. That's a sketchy place to be 3 wide, let alone 4 wide. But they're going to, no, that's not, they're going to make it work. Gracias into Chicano, into Cannizzaro. Big wreck heading into turn 1.
About to mention a huge move there where Jason Gracias made a 4 wide up the middle from the outside lane, and unfortunately it looks like Steven Dosiak Jr. Made contact with him, and that's going to take a lot of these guys out. Alonso Chicano, as we just mentioned, took his fast repair earlier along with John Cannizzaro, and they both get heavy damage to this incident, and that might take him out of a good contention for the win here.
I think Cannizzaro's day is done. You saw the suspension on that car. The car skewed to the left. Smoking as the 55 of Steven Dosiak Jr. He still has a fast repair he can lean on. Vincent Valvano, the defending winner for the first Talladega race. I mean, look at that 95. Almost looks like he's drifting down the back straightaway. That the toe of that machine is at 35 degrees, pointed the wrong direction to the left. My goodness, I don't even know he's still driving that thing. Kind of Tokyo drifting around 3 and 4.
Yeah, really heavy toe damage there. Obviously, just knocked the skew out of that car entirely, and now he's going to just try to crab walk, and I would have to assume definitely going to have a lot of required repairs out of that one, and might be done for the day. But really interesting wreck there, like I mentioned earlier, coming out of the tri-oval, very easy place, and Steven Dosiak Jr., actually, as you mentioned earlier, with that lead car kind of trailing, or the car trailing the lead car, I should say, it's kind of difficult to see, and Matthew Rodriguez looked like there on the replay. He just clipped the apron come up out of the tri-oval there from the race lead. Steven Dosiak Jr. saw that and kind of reacted to it, and unfortunately just barely turned up into Jason Gracias, who had just made that move up the middle. They both made contact and then obviously started the chain reaction, and unfortunately for Steven Dosiak Jr., the wreck kind of caught back up to him with Alonso Chicano. He actually got turned down the racetrack, clipped the right rear of the number 55 machine. He went head on almost into the outside returning wall, so definitely a lot of cars collected in that for sure.
It's incredible how a wreck at Talladega, it looked like you've got it cleared. Next thing you know, you're involved. I mean, in the cases you just mentioned there with Steven Dosiak Jr., bounced down to the inside. You'd think, well, the wreck's taking place several grooves up above him. There's no way he's getting involved. And what you described right there, Chicano back down, clips him in the right rear. That is a hard shot for Dosiak Jr., who I guarantee you was still in the throttle to try and make sure he could clear that incident. So that was full impact into that outside safer barrier in turn 1.
For sure. Vincent Valvano, obviously, unfortunately, also collected in that with the 95 machine. Lost control of his machine and came back down across the racetrack. But huge shout out to Mike Taylor there. He actually had a heck of a miss getting through all of that as all those cars were spinning all around him. Justin took his fast repair on that last caution flank, as you mentioned earlier. And finally, he was able to get involved, or stay out of the incident and not get involved, in a heck of a job there avoiding that incident. It looks like his luck kind of turning here for the remainder of this event.
Already mentioned about Chicano, his day more than likely over, as he had already taken a fast repair, and we saw the 58 of John Cannizzaro get sandwiched up into the outside wall with Jason Gracias. He also had taken on a faster pair very early in this race. So we'll have to see the damage sustained by him, how that's going to affect him for the remainder of this one. Obviously, big question marks on both the drivers of the 95 and the 58. Everybody else involved still had their faster pairs to lean back on. Dosiak Jr. is going to be a sure lock to take on a faster pair. I'm not so certain about the Jason Gracias machine. I believe P has taken his faster pair on, as he had pretty good damage on the right side of his car, and another couple of machines that are now used a faster pair include Vincent Valvano and the points leader Austin Grover. But this, as you mentioned, was the caution Grover and Duran needed to see to get themselves back not only in the hunt for this victory, but also in the respective positions they are for the championship, to kind of set up what the championship battle might look like heading into the season finale next week.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting thing to point out there as well. Steven Dosiak Jr. actually, his engine unfortunately expired as he was running around trying to get back to pit road. I believe he has gone a lap down now behind the pace truck, and luckily for him, though, Jason Gracias was kind enough to lend his car up until he took a faster pair there and kind of push him back into his pit box. But it looks like he's actually put it behind the wall, as that damage seems terminal for him, unfortunately. But Matthew Rodriguez up here, Mike Tellier, and Garrett Gleason, the three guys who stay out there underneath this caution flag, obviously going to be good in field here with about 5 laps to go. But two of those cars, that Mike Tellier up here with a clean race car after taking his faster pair. Garrett Gleason has not taken his faster pair and still has a clean race car up here. And these guys definitely, I'm looking forward to making the most of those machines up front and trying to push everything they can here for the race win.
Mike Tellier, of course, last week was leading the field off of turn number 4. Got jumped on the top side by Matthew Rodriguez. He finished out the event in the 4th position. He did gain 3 spots in the standings as a result, though, up to 6th place, but looking for his 4th top 5 and 6th top 10 on the season is the driver of the 97. He will be alongside of Matthew Rodriguez, who chooses the top line here for this upcoming restart. Garrett Gleason will be alongside of Jason Gracias in row 2. Row 3 is going to find Austin Grover and Vincent Valvano. David Duran, John Canizaro, and Kyle Lewis going to bring up the rear. Lewis actually just came down pit road to top off the fuel tank. Canizaro, we saw him involved in that incident, already a faster pair in the hole, spent over a minute on pit road getting damage repaired. You mentioned Dosiak Jr. out of the race. He was joined as well by Alonso Chicano. So we started the race with 11 drivers. We've got 9 left here, all 9 on the lead lap, but a few of them going to be a little bit off the pace here, as this restart is going to be with 3 laps to go. Question is, will we have our first in regulation Talladega race, or will, for the 3rd time this season, Talladega be sending us into overtime? I've got a feeling it's more the latter than the former, just based on what we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, I was about to ask, what are the chances we get all 9 of these cars to go 9 wide here for the race lead? I wouldn't surprise me the way this event has gone so far. These guys very aggressive in making moves for the race lead, obviously, and that's where this aggression is going to be really interesting to follow here in the closing stage of this race. Obviously, you have all these guys up front who are just taking their faster pair. Mike Tellier, Jason Gracias, and Vincent Valvano. These guys have all taken their faster pair, but especially for Austin Grover, who just also took his faster pair here, setting himself up for the finish of this event. David Duran now actually going to restart, I believe, alongside of him, just in front of him. He still has yet to take a faster pair, but he does have some minor damage on number 24 machine. These guys all going to be fighting for a lot. Austin Grover got to make sure he keeps his car clean here to the finish and make sure he can try to hold on to that points lead.
Mentioned Kyle Lewis came down pit road at the 1 degree signal to top off the fuel tank. He actually also took on his faster pair at that point in time, so add him to the list of drivers. So we've only really got 3 drivers that have their faster pair left: Rodriguez, Gleason, and David Duran. 3 laps to go here in regulation at Talladega Superspeedway. We saw at iRacing Superspeedway you had to defend 5 lanes up on the top side if you hugged the inside line. Here at Talladega, you get to defend 3 lanes up top and 2 lanes on the inside with no yellow line rule. Rodriguez up through the gears, going to lead us into turn 1. He tucks down in front of Mike Tellier, who's getting a big shove from Jason Gracias into turn 1. He's got to take the momentum somewhere. He gets moved up to the top side. A little bit of bumper hook from his front bumper to the back bumper of the 57.
Yeah, that early restart there on the jump on that restart. Matthew Rodriguez definitely caught a lot of guys out in the back off guard. It looks like John Canizaro, Kyle Lewis kind of losing touch to the lead draft. Austin Grover is kind of pulling himself back up to the lead draft, probably trying to take a little bit easy compared to most of these guys, but now Matthew Rodriguez, low man out there on the outside lane. He's going to get shuffled back to 60, it looks like.
Durand going to push Jason Gracias out in front. Both of these drivers, former winners this season. Durand in the first iRacing Superspeedway event. Gracias in the season opener at Daytona. They want to join Matthew Rodriguez as a multi-time winner this year. Here comes the top side. It's only Valvano. Nobody jumps up there with him. Now Rodriguez going to go up there, but it's only 2 versus 5 on the bottom. 2 to go here at Talladega. Single file here for the top 3. Now it's Tellier who jumps to the outside on Durand for second.
Valvano there with a push, trying to get up to his rear bumper on the outside lane with Matthew Rodriguez in tow. Now he has some friends up there in that third lane, and now actually they're going to go to the third lane. Looks like Valvano looks for the race lead in the back. Surely Matthew Rodriguez actually will hand him out to dry. Goes up the middle, behind Mike Tellier. He's going to try to push that number 97 machine to the race lead.
This is for Valvano to go for his second win at Talladega, looking slim as he's going to drop to the back. It's going to be Durand with Gracia still on that inside line. Garrett Gleason there with them. John Cananzaro, with help from Kyle Lewis, got pushed back up to this lead pack, so he's still got a shot. Tellier and Rodriguez, though, we're going to go 3 wide. Rodriguez, Tellier up top, Gracias in the middle, Durand on the bottom. They're bouncing off each other, but they're going to make it back to the white flag at Talladega.
Absolute miracle. This guy's not record there now. Austin Grover looks like he bowed down to Jason Gracias, trying to get clear. He's still not quite clear. 3 wide top side as those top 2 Toyota Camrys kind of tailing him away from the field for the moment. As now Jason Gracias another run to the inside and trying to get a draft off them down and back straight up on that high side. Matthew Rodriguez trying to set himself up here for the finish of this race, make the slingshot move on Mike Tellier.
Gracias with a big push from Austin Grover. Gracias going to get alongside the 57. Grover going to cross to the inside. 3 wide for second place. They're bouncing off each other. Tellier trying to defend. Grover's going to slide to second. What a move. Is he going to have a shot here against Mike Tellier? Both drivers are in the first win, and they're all going to wreck. The field is scattered in turn 4. Tellier looks back in his rearview mirror. Here comes Kyle Lewis in the 18. Can he make a charge through the tri-oval?
Kyle Lewis trying to get revenge on Talladega for the last time. Mike Tellier, though, with a big block coming to the finish line there. He will pick up the win here today at Talladega as they all crash behind him. What a job of Mike Tellier. Got involved in so many incidents early on in the event. Takes the fashion apparel, does exactly what he needs to do there at the finish to hold off Kyle Lewis, and he'll grab the checkered flag here today at Talladega.
Sweet redemption for Mike Tellier, who was only a couple hundred feet last week away from picking up his first victory. Tonight he closes out the deal. He'll get to burn it tongue for the first time this season, the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series. Lewis brings it home in second. Rodriguez was third, so it's a Camry 1, 2, 3 here this evening as several drivers hit hard out of turn number 4. I believe the one of Jason Gracias actually caught air so much that the nose of that car was pointed down towards the racing surface. We'll be going back and looking at the replay of that incident. I think we also had a Rodriguez Cananzaro wreck coming back to the start-finish line, but it all happened behind Mike Tellier, who had nothing but clean racetrack out in front of him for the final couple hundred feet from the tri-oval down to the start-finish line.
And you see Austin Grover in that second position, made that a really aggressive move down to get into that position down in turn number 3 beneath the yellow line, and he unfortunately kind of got collected out of a chain reaction. It looked like David Durand was trying to go for a top 5 spot there up the middle, got into the 57 machine. He got turned up into the number 1 machine. That turned Austin Grover down on his inside, and all those cars got collected. But interesting to point out as well for this championship battle is David Durand. He finished in the 7th position. Austin Grover was the last guy on the lead lap. So that's going to kind of shift these point standings as we go into Daytona, next week for the championship finale.
Either one of those drivers are going to get the 10 bonus points for most positions gained. That's actually going to be a tie between Mike Tellier and Matthew Rodriguez, who were up 7 from their starting spots. So take those bonus points out of play. As far as the laps led bonus point and the most laps led bonus point, we got to kind of wait until the points are calculated. But in terms of race points gained here per position, the 7th position finishing for David Durand is going to net him 25 points. 9th place finishing position for Austin Grover nets him 15 points. That's 10 points that David Durand gains on Austin Grover. That would, if we just do the calculations, not counting the bonus points, that would be 51 points that Durand has to make up heading into next week at Daytona to win the championship. It just kind of seems like it's a little bit too far out of reach for the 24. Grover, having David Durand just a couple positions ahead of him in the finishing results, might have locked up the championship here tonight.
Yeah, I think it would have been pretty much must-win situation for David Durand heading into next week. Obviously, that big point swing you get for winning a race here in the TNR Super Speedway Series, it definitely could be. I believe might be possible mathematically, but definitely would be a huge shakeup for David Durand. You'd have to go to victory lane and have the battle out for Austin Grover. But we'll just have to see how that plays out next week.
I don't have a clue how Jason Gracias even made it back to the start-finish line. Somehow this car actually was able to drive back to the checkered flag. There's the contact. And into the air goes Gracias, into the catch fence. There's Valvano, Durand, and Grover back there. And how this one was still under power after that hard hit, I'm not certain. He crossed the line in the 6th position on Cannizzaro. Let's actually take a look at the incident with him and Matthew Rodriguez coming back to the start-finish line as they were battling at the time. I believe it was for the 3rd spot. Garrett Gleason was able to bypass Cannizzaro. Rodriguez was able to hang on for the 3rd position, and oh, wow. Actually, it's incredible, but the 57 actually got shot forward from the contact after the 58 hit the outside wall, which actually had him cross the line ahead of Garrett Gleason to get that final spot in the podium.
Yeah, I was going to mention there was a second wreck there coming with a trial for those guys, and looked like number 18, Kyle Lewis, got tied with Matthew Rodriguez after that first incident. That probably hurt his momentum to try to get to number 97, Mike Tellier, for the race win. But yeah, somehow those two guys crashed across the start-finish line. Luckily, both were able to still cross the start-finish line in the top 5. But yeah, definitely a bit of a help there for Matthew Rodriguez with that contact.
It was interesting. I mean, we were listening to these guys in practice, and I heard somebody say, hey, can we push Mike Tellier to a win here tonight? And Mike comes on and says, well, you guys have tried and you failed so far this season. Well, he's got a win now as he's going to pick up the checkered flag this evening. 71 one-thousandths of a second over Kyle Lewis. Rodriguez brings it home in 3rd. Gleason and Cannizzaro going to complete the top 5. And we only had 2 drivers finish behind the wall in this race. Alonso Chicano in 10th and Stephen Dosiak Jr. in the 11th position. But we knew that the finish was going to be wild, and, well, we got our predictions wrong here, too. We thought that more than likely we were going to go 3 for 3 in overtime at Talladega. Nope, they did it in the full 57 scheduled laps here this evening. They made it back to the white, but only a handful made it back to the checkers.
Yeah, definitely put it up against the number, though, with 3 laps to go in that restart, and kind of set themselves up for a good finish there, and it was just an extra lap basically added on the overtime, but definitely was able to stay in regulation and kept it nice and exciting there all the way to the checkered flag.
Oh, let's see if we can talk with some of our top 3 finishers here tonight. Let's kick things off with 3rd place finisher this evening, last week's winner, Matthew Rodriguez. Matt, Rod, Lucas, and Seth up here in the upper end booth. You got us?
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to kind of make a football reference here because it kind of seemed like you were the fullback and the 97 was the running back. It was like you were kind of playing the defense for him there on that final lap. But, I mean, you pushed him out to a pretty sizable lead off of turn 2 on that final lap. You could have had a mano-a-mano. Were you planning some possible move there through 3 and 4 if it was just the 2 of you?
Let me preface this by saying Mike was biting my ear off, telling me I was the worst teammate known to man because he would not get by me. And I'm like, all right. So let's go ahead and work together on this restart. I shot him a PM, like, hey, take the low lane, I'll take the high lane, I'll drop down in front of you when we get going. I got off of that good start and I realized that Mike was starting to catch me back at the line, like, I wonder if Mike actually understood that or just wants to kill me. And thankfully Mike understood what I was trying to do by the last lap. I looked at that replay, I came up into Gracias. I was not planning to come up into Gracias, but I hooked Gracias, and in my turn I hooked Grover and started that huge chain reaction. Now, coming to the line, I will say, shameless, I tried to wreck Kyle Lewis. I tried to turn him. Fortunately, that car is really stable. Cannizzaro, on the other hand, not so stable.
We saw you get propelled across the line after the contact between yourself and Cannizzaro to be able to hold off Gleason for that 3rd position. But, I mean, obviously, we mentioned it coming into tonight. There's only a handful of drivers that came in with a shot of winning the championship. A lot of drivers, including yourself, last week said, you guys are out here just trophy hunting, having some fun. I mean, how does that make that for a late race restart, 3 to go here? I mean, are the tensions high? Is everybody still chill? I mean, what goes on in a driver's head at that point in time when you know that you're all just basically trying to get that checkered flag?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I was telling myself this entire time that, I still had a shot at the championship. I can run the gauntlet and I can go win both these races and just cross my fingers that both Wags and Duran would have issues. I think I kind of wrote myself off tonight because I needed to, at least in my mind, win both the races to even have a shot. And I came close, but I know a lot of guys are just trophy hunting and they were sending it. I know Mike was at that point earlier in the race where he wants to win and he was trying so hard. And that's what caused a few of those incidents earlier. Just Mike wanted to win. Mike wanted to be up front. Mike wanted to dominate, and I'm happy for him. He got it.
Great run for you here tonight. One of, I believe, only 3 drivers that still had a fast repair available to them, so able to keep your car relatively clean with all the carnage we saw in this race. Congrats on the run, 3rd place here at Talladega. Now we'll give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, I want to give a thanks to FRN, obviously. Patting myself on the back. So thanks, Seth. Thanks, Lucas, for being available and actually wanting to broadcast this. I'm very, very happy and very appreciative of you guys. Obviously, Sky Motorsports, 10 out of 10. Nothing like almost going from killing 2 team cars to winning with one and finishing 3rd with the other. Always nice. And Mike Tellier for actually not betraying me and just dumping me into the outside wall like I figured he would.
That's Matthew Rodriguez, 3rd place here tonight. And going to jump quite a bit in the point standings again here this evening after 2nd victory last week, picking up, or tied for picking up most spots here this evening. So some bonus points coming his way as well. In that regard, congratulations on the good run, Matt, and best of luck next week. Going to be a doozy in the season finale at Daytona.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, let's see if we can get Kyle Lewis, whose best finish coming in tonight was 3rd place here at Talladega Superspeedway. He betters it here this evening with a runner-up finish. Kyle, it's Lucas and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, guys. What's going on?
Oh my goodness, I mean, a crazy last lap, a crazy last restart there with 3 to go. We saw a number of drivers up in the air, flipping upside down from turn 4 all the way down to the tri-oval. You were able to make your way through that carnage, pick up your best finish on the season of 2nd place, but we saw a lot of slicing and dicing down the back straightaway. How in the world, when you're a car that's in the middle of all that, do you kind of strategize to position yourself to be there at the end, or is it just basically just pick a place and hope that you're going to make it through?
With tracks like this and iRacing, you've got more room on the bottom, and in the experience that I've had so far running with these guys, knowing that this last lap is coming, there's going to be a wreck somewhere. So your best bet is to stay on the bottom so you can get to the apron quick. I saw it coming ahead of time. So I was just able to move, quick enough. I had a couple of accidents earlier in the race that I was able to do the same thing. That first one that Cannizzaro was backing down the track, I had just enough room thanks to the Talladega, the width of the track. So, you just got to be prepared for it. Usually that middle and that high line, you're going to get suckered into a wreck one way or the other because they usually go up the track.
I mean, obviously at this point of the season, we start to narrow down the drivers that are in the hunt for the championship, and a big chunk of drivers coming into this race, about 4th back down through 10th. Only 44 points separating all of those guys, and with the way the point system works, easily can pick up 3-4 spots in the course of a race. You're right in the middle of that. Are you one of those kind of drivers that kind of looks at finishing the best you can for the season in the standings, or when you're out of the championship hunt, is it just focusing on getting as many wins as possible before the season comes to a close?
At this point, I'm still searching for that first win. All my teammates, Vinny, Doze, Garrett, they've all got wins. I'm just searching for that first win, not only in this league, but any of the leagues that I run in. So points, do they matter? Yes. But to me, I've been doing this for over a year now, and I'm just still looking for that first win. So maybe.
Well, Kyle, great run for you here tonight. We mentioned just before we brought you in, your best finish was here at Talladega, 3rd place. You bettered that here tonight with a 2nd place run. Congratulations. We're now going to give the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
I appreciate that. I'd like to first shout out my cousin. He's the one that the Flash products that I race. That is his business. So he makes the quarter midget engines, and he came on board to just throw a paint scheme together on there. But I'd like to say thank you to my girlfriend who supports me, watches every race. Same thing with my buddy Jerry. He's out there watching every race. My son, he's always cheering for me. My girlfriend's kids, same way. They enjoy watching these races. They were watching last week. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys in the booth. I love listening to you guys. You do a great job. And shout out to my TNR teammates, Garrett, Vinny, Doze. Don't know what I'd do without those guys. Jason Chu wasn't in tonight, and Jason Canizaro, John Canizaro. No, he's not a TNR teammate, so to speak, but he's always there pushing me. So I got to appreciate all those guys too.
It's Kyle Lewis, runner-up here tonight at the Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations once again on a great run, surviving the Connors there on the final lap, and maybe we could see you better the position one more time and get a victory in the season finale at Daytona next week.
Thank you, guys.
All right, let's go down to victory lane. First time this season, it's Mike Tellier celebrating. Mike, Lucas, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Oh, yep. Hi, guys.
Oh, man, let's go back to 2 weeks, making the move off turn 4 at Daytona. You end up wrecked. Last week, you'd go to throw the block there off of turn 4, get past for the win there. How good after the last couple of weeks where you almost are able to close out the deal is it to finally be able to burn it down in this 97 car and pick up a checkered flag?
It honestly feels surreal. Like, I feel like I've been leading out of turn 4 in every race this season just to watch people go blowing by me in some way, shape, or form. So to see the checker flag first and actually be here, it honestly, it's kind of surreal. I don't know, it hasn't really hit me. Like, I'm not even excited, but it's like, hey, I won. I got FRN in victory lane. Let's go. But I don't know. I'm so used to getting beat off of turn 4. It's like, is this real? Am I here?
Let's also bring up the fact as well, involved in 2 of the early cautions, dealing with that front end damage. Didn't really seem like it affected your speed that much. You got involved in another incident with Grover when he had the wheel disconnect as well, so then took on that faster pair. Obviously, it looked like that car, even with the damage on it, was fast. As soon as he got the faster pair, it was even faster. But talk about that final lap this time, because, you had to kind of block 3 or 4 lanes on the back straightaway, and then you start seeing carnage behind you. Nothing but clean air out in front and a few car lengths back behind you. At that point, were you basically just thinking, okay, make sure that I don't wreck this thing coming back to the start-finish line?
Honestly, as soon as I got outside of Jason, and I saw Matt behind me, I kind of knew I'd be okay. Matt was like, okay, I'm going to push you. And then coming down the backstretch, he was the one who actually called out that Grover was going down low. So thanks, Matt, for the intel and to tell me where to go. But then even once Grover got underneath Matt there in turn 3, he just told me he was going to push me to the end. So I don't know. It's kind of weird to have all these friends like help me get to victory lane after these last couple of weeks. That's what I mean. It's an odd way to win. Like, I'm thankful for the win, and I love that my friends are there to help push me to the win. It feels so weird though. I don't know.
And we're going to be expanding on this a little bit later here in the post-race, but I want to ask you here, with this victory, it puts you mathematically in the hunt to be able to win the championship next week at Daytona. Now, by all rights and purposes, a lot of stuff has to go your way, so with that being said, what is a mentality like going into a super speedway race to try and be a long shot for a championship title?
Well, if next week plays out like this week, and I lead more laps next week than I did this week, and I get those extra points, I would then technically have gained enough points on everybody in front of me to leapfrog them all and win the championship. Like, it's a really, really slim chance, but weirder things have happened. So, it's a 4-car race for the championship on the final race. Like, I would never thought this was going to happen.
Well, we know in the Super Speedway series that to expect the unexpected. Never know what's going to be happening. Mike, congratulations on the victory here tonight. We're now going to turn the mic over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys, FRN, Matt Rodriguez for putting you guys on the car and sponsoring me for the season, basically everywhere I go. Thanks, Matt. Austin Grover for the push in turn 3. I don't know. A lot of Sky Motorsports, all the guys in Sky Motorsports, Bronson, Kenny, Tom, Shane. I wish they were here tonight racing, but I think they have other things to do. So good luck tonight, guys. Garrett here at TNR for allowing us to put this show on every week. It's a blast. And you guys for broadcasting.
It's Mike Tellier, first checkered flag of the season. It's here tonight at the Talladega Superspeedway and puts him in the hunt for the championship next week. Congratulations, Mike. Best of luck next week. Should be a good one.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
So the point standings are in, as you heard Mike say, it's a 4-car battle for the championship. I was just told that the most points that a driver can gain, with bonus points included during the course of a race, is about 95 points. Right now, the point standings heading into the season finale are as follows. Austin Grover, 46 points over David Durand, 61 points over Matthew Rodriguez, who not only raked in the 10 bonus points for being tied for most positions gained tonight, he also led the most laps, so those bonus points headed his way. And then 79 points back is Mike Tellier. David Durand, Austin Grover, obviously those two in close enough proximity, as it was 15 points gained by David Durand here tonight. They're basically going to be the two that we're going to be focusing on the most for the championship. Rodriguez and Tellier, they have to have perfect days. They have to be up there up front, get the pole position, lead the most laps, maybe get 10 bonus points for picking up the most positions from start to finish. They're the long shot drivers, but again, it's super speedway racing, Lucas, so we can't take anything for granted.
No, for sure. Obviously, a lot could change. We saw that happening just in the last corner here today, in the last lap off turn number 4. Our two championship contenders, or the main championship contenders, as you mentioned, both got left with an incident and finished towards the back of the pack. So anything can obviously definitely happen, especially with this league. It's so fun to look at these point standings and see all the different bonus points you can earn through different earnings and positions you put yourself into, whether it be lap sled, the pole position, or most positions gained. And so there's a huge swing, like you mentioned, 95 points. These guys to go through. We heard Matthew Rodriguez say that he kind of wrote himself off, but only 60 points out. That gives him about a 35-point cushion for Austin Grover, David Durand, to kind of make sure that they don't get too good of a finish or too many bonus points, and he can put himself in that position with a win. So definitely not going to happen, and always just fun when it comes down to Daytona.
And let's talk about Daytona real quickly here. Obviously, the third time that we're going to the current version of Daytona. We did have one time where we went to the legacy version of Daytona, but if we go to the two previous Daytona races, including the season opener, 6 cautions in the first Daytona race, 8 cautions in that second Daytona race, and a big thing that we've talked about week after week is the drivers and their decision of when to take on the faster pair. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a huge chess match for those championship 4 as to when to take on the faster pair, because one wrong decision could take you out of the hunt for that trophy.
Yeah, most definitely. And obviously, we saw it play out here tonight. Mike Tellier decided to take it there with about 15 laps to go in that restart. Was able to avoid that one incident that happened in the closing stages, and he managed to pick up the victory here today. And, that's definitely the strategy it comes down to. You're going to see those guys like Matthew Rodriguez and Mike Tellier, actually, who's now within the championship hunt. Those guys can probably be aggressive for the drop of the green flag and definitely go for it. We saw David Durand here tonight at Talladega, definitely going for it as well from the drop of the green flag, 46 points out. Headed into Daytona next week, he's got to be aggressive. So it's going to be really interesting. You might not think that Daytona is a very narrow racetrack compared to Talladega, which is a downsized Madison Superspeedway. Those guys are going to have quite as much space to work with, so it should be a pretty exciting race, and we might see some carnage that definitely shakes up the championship battle.
Going to be 2 Toyota Camrys versus 2 Chevrolet Camaros next week, and only one can hoist the championship trophy. Will it be Grover? Will it be Durand? Will it be Rodriguez? Or will it be tonight's race winner, Mike Tellier? We're going to be finding out next Sunday night as the season finale for the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series takes place at Daytona. The green flag scheduled to fly at 6:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lucas, Talladega has certainly set us up for a very interesting championship battle next week. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Absolutely. Always a blast to call a race here at Talladega. Super fun action, and absolutely appreciate it, Seth. Always a pleasure.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here from Talladega Superspeedway. Be sure to join us next week as we crown a champion in the finale at Daytona. For Lucas Cram, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, folks, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.